barbell stuff, I wanted to touch on a few concepts today because what we're doing here is on a large scale about strength culture. So lifting weights, important, kettlebell, mace, striking, grappling, all this stuff is very important, putting it together and all this stuff. But one of the things that we've got to ask ourselves is, why are we doing this? What for? And what are we trying to do? How are we trying to progress? You know, oftentimes there's a lot of guys that'll be involved, whether that's with the Wolves, Operation Werewolf, or I'm sure you see it at your gym. They seem to talk the most and improve the least. They're guys who are almost like chronically the same as always. They'll talk a big game, but 2 years on, they don't really look any better. They're not really lifting anymore, or whatever their goals are. What I call this is fantasizers versus actualizers. There's a big difference between fantasizing about wanting to be something and actualizing that. There's a great difference between saying, oh my God, I'd love to look like that someday, blah, and saying, if I want to look this way, I must train this way. That's actualization versus fantasy. You know, you see this the same all the time. Guys on the internet are like, oh my God, I can't seem to find a fucking good girl. It's like, oh, she's out there, dude. She's fucking somebody else because he's a fucking actualizer. When you sit here and fantasize about what you want, some guy who's made something of himself already has that. And you're going to have to fucking do that and take her. Or whatever the fuck. The point being is that in order to attain stuff, we have to understand and clearly define exactly what it is that we want. So oftentimes identifying the key problems with attaining our goals, it almost always comes down to three of the same things. Number one, lack of organization. Guys will fucking hit things like a fucking shotgun spray and expect it to stick. One of the things that always makes me laugh is I'll go to the gym with one of my friends who I fucking love very much, but fucking is not what I would call a dedicated lifter. He has no organization. He comes in and he kind of just does stuff in the gym. And then we'll sit there and like, I've been in the gym with him 3 months ago and I watched him do say like 8 unbroken pull-ups and this time he does 6 and he's like, what the fuck? And you're like, dude, I know, that's super fucked up because I felt like the universe owed you 10 for the random like shotgun pattern training that you've been doing. You can't attack shit with a lack of organization. You have to fucking have a tight concept of what you're trying to do, which brings us to the second idea, which is lack of clearly stated goals. It's not enough to say, yeah, I'm going to try to get better at this. Whether you're talking about jiu-jitsu, striking, weightlifting, business, finance, whatever it is, it's not enough to be like, well, I guess I'd like to have some more fucking money. Sure would be nice. That's not a goal. That's being like, oh, I wish. That's fantasizing. Saying, this year I'll have $15,000 in my fucking savings account and I'm going to backtrace from there and create clearly defined tactics in order to attain a clearly defined goal. So like with bench press, if you have a bench press of 205 and you want a better bench press, set a benchmark and say, my goal right now is 205 to 225. It is my goal to bench 225 and this is the way that I'll get there. Don't just shotgun pattern it and expect it to work because it's not going to happen. The third and the biggest issue that everyone has with hitting their goals is what everybody fucking struggles with, no matter who you are, and that's discipline. You can have organization and you can have clearly defined goals, but then if you decide you want to fucking sit on your couch and watch something on Netflix or whatever while you're supposed to be doing that, I'm sorry, but it's not going to happen for you, friend. That's not the way that improvement works. And so, in order to fucking cultivate all this stuff, we need to have organization, we need to have goals, and we need to have discipline. Because discipline leads to consistency. All those three things that we have, them lead to consistency. I don't care if you talk to Chase or you talk to Joel or Greg, probably what they will tell you is that however they got to where they were, one of the things that all of them have in common is that they consistently trained with goals. Consistency is the most difficult thing to have because you will watch guys get excited about something. They come in, I'm sure you've had a million guys coming off the street, they get a fucking jiu-jitsu tattoo in fucking cursive script on their fucking forearm, fucking gear, everything. And 3 months later, they're not fucking there anymore. Life happened. Life happens to fucking everybody. Carson fucking had life happen to him on the way back to fucking Canada and still made the fucking trip down here. There's about 35 people between last week and this week who are gonna be here who are not here. We would have had way too fucking many people here. But like, life happened to all these guys and they're not here. But this consistency and follow through of action is fucking absolutely crucial in order to get anything done. And so when we start to look at this idea of organization, we have to start to break down our goals and say, okay, short term versus long term. Peter Thiel, who's the guy who he owns PayPal, he came up with the idea of PayPal, he's a fucking billionaire. And he said oftentimes when people set goals, everybody who's like looked at any like personal motivation stuff or motivational speakers or whatever, they always are like, you need to have your like 1 year goal, your 5 year goal, your 10 year goal. And I'm like, I don't know where the fuck I'm gonna be in 2 years. My 10-year fucking goal, I don't know, I guess I wanna not be dead. But like setting a 10-year goal, you know, he said if you have 10-year goals, you're working too slow. Oftentimes what could be accomplished in 3 years, if you give yourself the time, it'll take 3 years. But if you tell yourself, I'm going to take this 3-year goal and I'm going to do it in 6 months, now we're talking. Because it's going to require a lot of organization and a lot of discipline to make it happen. Whereas in 3 years, maybe you'll figure it out. So breaking goals into short-term and long-term is really fucking crucial. And one of the reasons that I'm talking about this, man, a lot of you guys might have everything figured out. But a lot of you might not. And so one of the things that you can do in order to sort this shit out for yourself in a really simple way, they talk about Genghis Khan when he was fucking creating his whole plan. He said everything that he did, there was a battle plan and there was a campaign plan. He couldn't plan for the whole fucking campaign because he didn't know what was going to happen in the next battle, but he did know that his goal was to fucking kill everyone everywhere. But then he had to break this down and he had to say, okay, but here's the strategy for this 3 months. 90-day goals have been proven over and over and over and over to be the most effective time frame to work in because it's short term, but it's long enough that what you can begin to create is short-term objectives that stack into accomplishing long-term goals. If you create one long-term goal and it's way the fuck over here, 10 years worth of like doing this, it's a long time of sort of like floundering around the dark. But if you say, if I can achieve this 3-month goal and I know what my next one is, and I can be consistent and disciplined and organized with that, even if it seems small at first, this is where we fuck ourselves up. We take on all this shit at one time and then we fuck all of it up. But if you just say, dude, don't even worry about that. Worry about the next 90 days. What are you going to do in the next 90 days? Organize that. And at the end of that 90 days, when you're coming up on it, organize the next 90. Because 4 of those is an entire fucking year worth of shit that you're crushing these short-term objectives until you realize that 3 years deep, you've gone up a belt level, you're fucking benching 3 wheels, you've got fucking 20 grand in your fucking bank account, and like you're just smashing fucking everything. Because everything comes down to this idea of battle plan versus campaign plan. One of the things that I do, and one of the ways that I organize every day, because I have to organize everything. And we're talking here about what Greg talked about earlier, which is the idea of like, you're talking about programming basically. I know guys who will program fanatically every different aspect of their weightlifting training to the point where they log every single fucking push-up they've ever done, but they don't apply that anywhere else in their life. It's just the one fucking area. They don't do it with their finance. Man, they're fucking killing it in the gym, but then they're like, dude, I can't even afford my supplements this month. And you're like, right, but everything applies everywhere. So one of the things that we've got to start understanding is this battle plan versus campaign plan. If I don't write everything down before I do it, I won't accomplish it. Every single night, what I do at the end of my day is I take my notebook out, and I know that I've got 5 million fucking things to do the next day. I write every single one of them down on a page or 2 pages or 3 pages. Sometimes my fucking like day goals for the next day is this many. I know beforehand that I'm not going to get them done, but it's cool because I've already organized it into a 3-month thing. I know that those are all objectives. I've got to fucking utilize tactics in order to crush those objectives out. And so I write all of them down. And then the next day, in order of importance, because I've already identified them against my greater goals, I start to fuck shit up on that list and I knock out as many things as possible. Sometimes I'll identify certain ones by putting a block around them, where if I do that thing, I won't have to do 4 or 5 of the other things on the list. It's like Tetris when you hit the fucking thing and all the other ones explode. There's certain shit that if you can accomplish it, for example, if I can make this deal happen, I'll make fucking 8K and I won't have to worry about doing these other 3 things. I can be like, fuck this, I don't want to do that anyway. So once you've identified stuff and you start doing the short-term, long-term stuff, what's going to happen? They've identified the idea, there's a concept, that if you do anything for 3 weeks, it becomes a habit. That's how long it takes for a human being to create a habit. So if you can do anything and set that goal and do it for 21 days in a row, the brain starts to normalize it and it wants it. This is a concept that my brother and I have talked about a lot, which is that discipline at first is like an austerity. It's something that you don't want. It's something you have to force on yourself. But after it becomes a habit, and then when the habit turns into like this building experience that starts to grow throughout your life, the discipline becomes the purpose. It starts to become what you live for instead of what you dread. And so that's the goal, is to, when you set up all these things and you start to create these goals and you start to understand where you're trying to go, you're trying to create habits and you're trying to make disciplines become things that you want to do. If you ask Chase, like, what do you want to do today? I guarantee you he's going to be like, fucking train, hit dudes in the fucking head, whatever the fuck it is. Because what he does is what he loves. But probably sometimes it doesn't feel like that, and that's where the discipline comes in. You know, it's easy to look at dudes like Greg or Joel and be like, man, they must have fucking just loved this. I guarantee you talk to some of them dudes, and there's months at a time where it's just been a grind, and they didn't even want to fucking go. But they went because they understood that without that consistency, they were never going to master that. You know, Joel would never have gotten to the beginner/intermediate level in jiu-jitsu that he's attained. But, you know, so these are key points that if we can create these habits, guys, then we can start to make these goals so much more attainable, because progress and success becomes habitual. And we just fuck shit up as like a daily thing, like breathing. So this is the next thing, and I wanted to talk about real quick before we let Sky come up here, is that all of this relates to a group level as well. I know a lot of you guys are flying solo out there, but a lot of you have little cliques and crews that you hang out in. You cannot build shit with multiple people if you are not building yourself in this way. Because if you don't, it's like I was talking to you about last night. You're a fucking liability to your friends, and you're really not a friend. You're a piece of dog shit who I guarantee is fucking vampiring off the strong dudes in your circle, and what you're doing is you're like along for the ride, and you're getting to hitch on the coattails to glory while they put in all the fucking work. It's like Chase talks about, like, he doesn't let dudes in his fucking little crew unless they're training and fighting, correct? Because why the fuck would you? If he goes out to the bar and he has 2 of his fucking homeboys who are like, yeah man, like I'll get around to doing it, and then some crazy shit breaks out, all he's gonna have to think about is like, oh fuck, those dudes, they need me because I'm like their papa. That's not friendship. So on a group level, it's crucial that you build yourself before you begin building something. Another thing that we've seen a lot is young guys will come in and they'll start like associating some like 19-year-old kid who's 118 pounds. And then he's like, yeah man, I'm having a real hard time getting any fucking guys out here to fucking do this thing that I'm trying to run. And you're like, well bro, if you hit me up and I come out and met you in person, and then you were like, yeah, I'm gonna be running the show here, I'd be like, well then I will see you in 5 years when you become a human being. Because what we're talking about here with all these ideas of goal setting, organization, consistency, and discipline is we're talking about a road to leadership. In order to lead anyone or to build anything, you have to develop authority. Authority only comes from experience and confidence, both of which feed off the other principles that we just talked about. If you're able to organize, if you're able to clearly define goals, and if you're able to discipline yourself to have the consistency to achieve those goals, you're going to start attaining experience. Experience leads to confidence. How did you feel the first time you went in a cage to fight? A bit nervous, sketched out, a lot of anxiety? How about like the 10th time?
You're chill by that time.
A lot more calm because he has confidence. This is why Chase can come up here and instruct you guys how to fight. Not because he has theorized or read some fucking books or been in some street fights, bro. It's that he has consistently set and attained goals through disciplining himself to do that so that he has the experience and he can speak with confidence from experience. And you can watch him, if you want to on YouTube, fuck shit up and know that he has that experience. So when you're developing this idea of saying like, hey, look, I'm trying to get something going, I'm trying to fucking make things happen here, all that comes from authority. So if we can start to attain these ideas of experience, then we can chain things together, and it all starts from create a 3-week habit. Break all your goals down into 3-month goals. Those are your fucking objectives. Have those long-term goals and make sure that you've backtracked from them. And broken long-term goals, short-term objective, 3-week habit. Chain it all together. Create that consistency so that you can build that authority. So that in 5 years, you'll be able to fucking have something righteous. You'll be able to have a crew like Chase will, where you can walk around and fucking be proud of yourself, the guys that you're hanging out with, and that they still know that you're speaking from a place of authority because you didn't start doing something with them and then quit. Because that's the next thing that happens to a lot of guys. You hear jiu-jitsu dudes talk about building a tent over your black belt. The guys who get a black belt and then they get a gut. Because they're like, well, I got there. Greg talked about how a lot of people swing a kettlebell this way because people have just been swinging kettlebells that way, but the merit must be tested again. Same goes for you. You don't get to show up somewhere and be like, well, I'm like 38 years old and in my past, like I did a bunch of rash shit. Nobody fucking knows you. We don't know each other. So it's important when you get around groups of men that you're always operating at a high level because that's what this is about. What Operation Werewolf is about is associating with groups of inspiring people and individuals who have maybe more experience and authority than you do so that you can push yourself in order to attain that for yourself. Because it's like Andy talks about. When Andy says, kill your idols, he doesn't mean, fuck everyone, you should never look up to anybody. He means that every day you wake up, when you idolize somebody, your goal should be to be better than that motherfucker. Because that's the only way that we get anywhere. So as we go into the rest of the day, the only other thing I wanted to touch on is another thing that Greg said, which is that today and in life in general, details become more crucial as we begin to fatigue. As you guys get tired today, it's going to become important that you pay attention more. Not check out. If you're here and you're here to work, pay attention to the details. Listen to what the fucking instructors are telling you to do. Hone in on those things, because if you're able to do them tired, you will be able to do them excellently fresh. Last week we did a fucking amazing event here. One of the best ones I've experienced with my organization. We've been doing this for 12 years, and it continues to keep getting bigger and bigger and grow more and more every year, which is great. But it also puts more of a stress on the guys who are running the show. For 2 days after last fucking week's moot, I didn't go anywhere. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was so burnt out and beat down from the fucking weekend and everything going on, and knew I had to come out and do this again with more people the following weekend. And when I go home, I'm doing it again the following weekend out in Oregon. And after that, I'm going to get on a fucking plane and I'm going to fly to Colorado. And after that, I'm getting ready to go to Serbia. And after that, and on and on and on and on and on. And when I look at it, it's fucking stretched out and it makes me want to be like, oh, fuck, dude. But I had a conversation with my bro, Raysville, Sam Bam, the other morning about his experience being in prison. And he said, you can't think about it like that. Everybody who goes to prison who fucks up are the dudes who don't have a fucking plan. They don't have organization. They don't have any goals. They don't have a fucking set schedule of things to do, and what they do is they start to get crazy, they get cagey, they burn out. So as the details become more crucial, as we fatigue, we have to pay attention more in life. We have to make sure that we're not burning ourselves out to a point where we can't keep that fire burning. Because consistency is fucking everything. And none of us will ever become an authority at anything. We'll be fucking perpetually that guy who runs his neck and in 2 years is just the same. So pay attention to these guys instructing you today, and when Sky comes up here, understand that he is talking to you from authority. A lot of you guys have seen his videos, you know what Sky looks like under that fucking big jacket. That's why I watch his videos. But the fact is that Sky hasn't built that from a couple of years of fucking around. He's built it and he's going to be able to speak with you guys with authority from consistency, and consistency creates that authority. So thank you guys for being here. We're going to let Sky run you through some barbell stuff.
Yeah!
Merat minimum, tar skall du ganga, jag det gona sinner